All right, I'll go ahead and get started since I'm the only one unmuted right now too. Good afternoon, everybody. Thanks for joining. We probably going to have more people trickling in because I know we had some more RSVPs. If you're able to turn your camera on, that'd be great. Especially because this is a smaller group. We'd love to be able to see faces and have interaction going on. If you can't or don't want to, no problem at all as well. So my name's Brandy Ewell. I use she, her pronouns. I am one of the career advisors in career services, and I am going to be talking through and leading our panelists on our discussion for this Green Pathways career event. But before I do that, I want to very much thank Haley and Izzy for inviting me to do this, and also give y'all a chance to introduce yourselves and talk about the main reason that we're doing this and how things are going to go. So, Haley, would you like to go ahead and start?
Sure, I'm Haley Herman. I use she, her pronouns. I'm in the Office for Sustainability at UR, and I do our communications and events. And I'll kick it over to Izzy.
Hi, I'm Izzy. I'm a junior at UR, and I am the student programs intern for the Office for Sustainability. And yeah, I wanted to help plan this event just because as an environmental studies major, I feel like it's not always super clear like what career pathways are like available to students. So I wanted to hear from some alumni and just like talk to everyone about what your experiences were like.
Great, thank you. And so I'll go ahead and we're going to have each panelist introduce themselves with their name, title, pronouns if they'd like to share that, and then a one-sentence description of your current job right now. And then we'll start rolling into the questions. Yeah, actually, before we start that, because I do want to check with our students that are here. I know there's one person I just admitted who's a senior, but what years do we have here? Or if you want to say anything else about yourself, again, not putting you on the spot to say all the things. But what do we have first year students here? And if you're off camera, you can just do a thumbs up. Second year students. Yay. Juniors, more juniors. Yay. And seniors, our class of 2025. Yay. Okay, and I know Abby is class of 25. Yes, so alums, other. And feel free to unmute if you want to say anything more. Awesome. Okay. And again, we're going to keep having people trickle in. And Haley, if you don't mind focusing on those, because I like to multitask, but I also realize I can't multitask. So we're not going to do that. All right. Our panel time. So I'm going to I'll just call on each of you, introduce yourself with name, title, pronouns, if you like, and then one sentence description of your current job. So we'll start with Anna, because you're right next to me on the screen.
Hi everyone, I'm Anna. I graduated in 2023. I use she, her pronouns. I am a rangeland specialist for a carbon accrediting company called Kateri. I work to make ranch plants, regenerative ranch plants to help fight climate change.
Great. Thank you. Liz?
Hi, I'm Liz Hallis. I am class of 2022. I am currently an ecology assistant for the NPS I&M network based out of Fredericksburg, Virginia. And for that, I do some various things, but mostly invasive species management planning, and some GIS tasks for the network.
And just to clarify, in case people don't know, like NPS is National Park Service, right? And I&M, you said it earlier, what would their
Sorry, inventory and monitoring.
there you go. So operations kind of things, right? Got it. All right. Great. And Carol?
Hi, everyone. My name is Carol Courtenay. I use she, her pronouns. I graduated all the way back in 2012 from University of Richmond. I am now a staff attorney at the Southern Environmental Law Center. I work in our Charlottesville office on state environmental issues in Virginia, mostly in the land use and transportation realm, as well as some water pollution issues. And I'll just say in the environmental world, you're going to have to get used to acronyms. We talk a lot in acronyms and use them a lot.
Right. Okay. And McKenna?
Hi, everyone. McKenna Dunbar. I'm the building electrification lead at Sierra Virginia chapter.
and focus on energy justice topics with grassroots communities, technical advisory as it relates to Inflation Reduction Act implementation for the built environment and carbon reduction sectors, and also work a lot with these rural communities on solar workforce development and bridging that with holistic energy efficiency workforce.
Awesome. And for our others who have joined late, if you haven't yet, I'm just getting a quick idea of who we have here. If any, I see Todd Lookingbill's phone, so I assume that's Todd Lookingbill, our geography, well, before chair, but also teaching the environmental studies internship class right now. So, but does anybody else want to introduce themselves just so we know? Like, I want to make sure everybody's going to get what they're wanting to get and know who the audience is. So this is open for any of our other attendees. Becky,
I'll
hi.
be happy to introduce myself. I'm Becky Watson, and I'm with a nonprofit called Keep Virginia Beautiful. And we are a statewide organization that does a lot of anti-litter, recycling, waste reduction. And I'm managing a program we just had a pilot for last year that was successful. And this year we have a full school year of student ambassadors for Virginia's environment, SAVE. And it's for high school, junior, and seniors. We meet twice a month. And it's a leadership role. And I'm getting a lot of information from them. And they're asking a lot of us. And one of the things we want to help them is find out what are good career paths for them, what do they need. So in order to be more of a resource for them and hopefully make some connections maybe or get some information today, that's why I'm joining you.
Great, thank you.
Thank you.
Anybody else? All righty. And the other thing I was going to say is when I usually run a Zoom panel like this, a lot of times alums, I'm here also to learn about the different career fields that are here, because I think I've been doing this career services work for 25 years now, but new careers get invented all the time and new things change all the time. But when y'all share different resources and things, I'm going to start making a list of things and being able to share that with our panelists afterwards. So feel free to shout out some things, or if you don't have the time to put them in the chat, I will be looking for the resources that you're talking about. So all good? Great. Okay, so let's get started with the questions. I'm gonna have each of you run through the questions. I'm watching the time. Haley, please also help me with the time as well. The format of this is we're gonna have this as a panel where I'm gonna go through. I just got about 5 questions to go through, and then we're gonna have smaller breakouts where students can have a little bit more casual conversations, and then we'll bring it back to the group after that. So that's the plan. But let's go ahead and start with this first question, and whoever wants to start with it, go, and then we'll just popcorn it around. So when you're at Richmond, what types of experiences did you take part in related to your career goals, and how do they help? How do you see those as connected in helping you achieve your career goals?
I'm happy to hop in. During my time at Richmond, I was doing a number of things related to environment and the energy sector. I held multiple part-time roles, and one of them was as a fellow for Dr. Mary Friendly Brook, and I was in one of the renewable energy justice programs where I was partnered directly with on the ground grassroots organization working on solar workforce development for underserved communities. I spent a lot of time in Buckingham County and working with the leaders of this group to support the transition of those by upskilling and working with a few other community-based partners to get the information of solar and building decarbonization in general to the classroom. Another key experience for me, honestly, one of the most pivotal ones for my emergence and my understandings of environmental justice was actually working in the herbarium and in the greenhouse as a freshman with one of the professors in the Gottwald School, and that really helped me be more passionate about the like plant morphology and had me thinking, how can I combine my passion for the physical aspects of environment with my social justice, my inspirations and aspirations for social justice involvement. And from that, I was able to look into the staff and faculty lists that were on the website. This was pre-COVID, and do some digging on the type of work that the professors between different departments were doing, and see patterns of what phrases and what topics that I was interested in. Then I reached out and was able to really dig into the energy justice work. So I would say that was very key for me. And I'm a B school major too, so I would say that all of my efforts with environmental justice and where I am today was really inspired with the environment and geography departments.
Thank you for all that. Who would like to go next?
I can go ahead. Thanks, McKenna. That was really insightful. I'd say I'd outline 3 top experiences at Richmond that have helped me achieve my career goals. Number 1 would be being a trip leader and a treasurer for the Outdoors Club. I think that taught me a lot about how to lead and organize different groups of people, as well as I organized a wilderness first aid training, which was really helpful for advancing some of our outdoor recreational activities in more of a safe manner. The second would be my sustainability internship. So huge shout out to the sustainability office for putting on this event as well. I got to lead a lot of volunteer events there. And then the third would be the Richmond Guarantee. I actually used that with Dr. Seven to work on an internship with the Collaborative to Combat the Illegal Trade in Turtles. And that internship really gave me the skills to kind of look at systems of scale differently. And I learned a lot about how to just kind of analyze different trends in law and policy, as well as analyze spatial relationships with illegal wildlife trafficking.
Great. In the Richmond Guarantee, your summer fellowships programs, that's going to be the gearing up. You'll hear a lot more about that in the next couple of months, if you haven't already. Thank you. Do our other panelists have anything to add on the UR experiences that connected to your career?
I think for me, finding the geography major was really important for me exploring kind of the environmental field and how I wanted to interact with it. It's obviously such a broad area. The environment is basically everything, and there are so many different ways you could work on environmental issues. So the interdisciplinary and kind of wide-ranging studies that fell under the geography major really helped me kind of explore the different avenues that might be available to me. And it probably helped that I really identified with the place-based nature of that work. And the organization that I work for now, one of our key guiding principles is that we do place-based work. So kind of figuring out that that was important to me early on helped me figure out kind of what types of organizations I might be interested in working with, and what jobs within those organizations might be interesting to me. So I think that that was a really helpful part of my Richmond experience.
And I'll just chime in to echo what Carol said. Being a part of the geography department was just a great network for connecting with a lot of different organizations. I did a couple of different internships and worked on some projects with professors throughout my time. And I think that all of the experiences that I had, even if that project is not something that I've done in my job now, having that breadth of experience has been something that I think has positively impacted my career. And then also with what Anna said about the Richmond Guarantee, I would strongly urge you to take advantage of that. I was able to fund an internship between my junior and senior years using my Richmond Guarantee. I worked at a research learning center in Maine. And because of that internship, I actually worked there for a season after school. So, especially for Park Service and federal jobs, some of the core, like service corps and early jobs do not pay you very much. So take advantage of Richmond Guarantee and, making a livable wage while you are still in college. If you can take those opportunities while that's, just your summer versus a job after school. So, yeah.
So much. Izzy, did you want to ask the next question or did you want me to continue on?
I can ask the next question. What are some of the skills or experiences that you gained from your major and your time at UR that have been most beneficial throughout your career?
I can chime in here again. I really appreciated how Carol framed the phrase like place-based work, place-based learning, because I engage a lot in grassroots organizing, but also grass top strategic work. I think one of the biggest lessons I've taken from my experience at University of Richmond, again, particularly with the geography and environmental studies majors and my colleagues in that sphere and mentors in that sphere, is one that all work that we do in sustainability needs to be grounded in environmental justice and ensuring that those who are most impacted by the climate crisis are not just having a seat at the table, they are the table. And that needs to be central to all of the outcomes for work that happens, whether it is, whether you're working at a corporate organization in sustainability, like injecting aspects of environmental justice to that work. If you're working at a large nonprofit advocacy organization like Sierra Club, ensuring that environmental justice is at the center of what we do, that when we are creating policies or advocating against policies that we don't believe in, we are being in touch with the community and we are collaborating with them and empowering them, not just leading the group. And that was really central to my experience, especially again with Dr. Mary Finley Brooke and all of her efforts statewide and in Puerto Rico. That really was what was drilled into me and has remained with me.
Go ahead,
And
Anna.
I think, oh, I was gonna say, I think that was really well said. I think for me, I actually came into Richmond. My first major was computer science, the minor in math. I did not see myself going into the environmental justice sector at all. And eventually, when I switched my major to environmental studies, I was actually kind of disappointed. I wanted it to be ecology or restoration ecology. Um, and when I introduce myself to people, usually I say I have an environmental science degree, not an environmental studies degree. Um, Despite all of that, I think the environmental studies degree is so much better than just getting a degree in like plain ecology or plain computer science or plain mathematics, because it allows you to take classes like environmental ethics, environmental law and policy. Being at a small liberal arts college, I could still take classes like healthcare studies and biostats, and Dr. Finley Brooks' capstone project, I think really kind of helped pull all of those pieces together. So the interdisciplinary nature of the degree and also just attending the University of Richmond and how that's structured with from your FYS to all the way through to your capstone project, I think was really, really impactful for me in my career.
So for me, what I was going to talk about is going to sound like I'm just pandering because he's on the call, but Dr. Lickingbill was my academic advisor and mentor for my independent research throughout my time at Richmond. And I think that working through that project with Dr. Lickingbill gave me so many great foundational skills that have really helped me both through law school and then as a practicing lawyer. So, designing and executing the project, I had to bone up on some GIS skills, work on presentations, like presenting my data in a way that made sense to people, orally presenting it, going to conferences, working through the publication process and all of kind of the headaches and things that go along with that, and really just sitting with a research question for basically 3 years and really drilling down on it, getting to the bottom of it, chasing every lead, reading all of the papers, establishing a really great kind of baseline knowledge of the area that I was working in, and then creating something original and unique out of that environment. And that's just really useful and applicable to what I do as a lawyer. It's constantly becoming an expert in things that you don't know anything about. So I would really encourage everyone on this call to reach out to faculty and establish that kind of relationship, whether it's a formal, like, independent research project. I'm not sure if I know the programs have changed, so maybe there's more official names for whatever this is now, but working through that type of project, or just talking to your professors to get an idea of who they're working with in the field. Like, do they have any advice for you? I think that's one of the most valuable things that Richmond offered to me, especially compared to my friends who went to larger universities.
Yeah, so I totally agree with what all the other panelists have said. It's great advice. I also want to reemphasize that project management is a skill you will have to use regardless of what aspect of environmental careers you go into. I'm sure all of the panelists have to do project management at different points, and whether that's with reading or starting and completing research projects versus writing management plans. All of that requires you to go back to those basic skills of designing a good project, following a work plan, and following through on your work. So I think Richmond does set you up really well as a student. There's multiple opportunities for you to do project management with capstones or internships, things like that. But I think, yeah, really being mindful of how to execute a project and what goes into that. Those are all skills that you'll build on later in your career. And that's helped me a lot with the jobs that I've done after college. And then I picked up my environmental studies major later. So I took more geography classes than environmental. But even though I'm more so a biology, ecology person now, I think that my GIS skills have made me a really strong applicant. That's not something that everyone has. And the SAL and your professors are all super knowledgeable and great resources for building that skill set. And employers are looking for people with GIS skills, regardless of how much you use it in your position. If you have GIS skills on your portfolio, on your resume, people are going to see that and be like, cool, we want you, because there's not a lot of people who can do that. So I would strongly recommend taking advantage of GIS skills. And I have to turn my camera off, but I will be back in 1 minute.
No problem. Thank you. And I'll just go back and forth on the questions. And I also wanted to make sure, in case our students didn't see in the chat, we have, along with Becky Watson joining us, thank you for joining us, we have another person who is an alum, a class of 2020, Riley Garrett's, I believe I'm pronouncing the right, hopefully I'm pronouncing the name correctly, working as a tech consultant with Tech and applying to sustainability and MBA joint programs. So bringing another angle to that. So, and Riley, I know you're driving, but if you can add more things to the chat, feel free, or when you're ready to talk, go ahead. I wanted to shift on to, like, beyond Richmond, your experiences at Richmond, moving more into the job that you have now or previous positions you've been into. What's been the biggest surprise? What's the most biggest, let's read the question in the right way. What's the one thing that surprised you most about your work that you didn't know before getting into the field?
I can kick us off. I think for me, my biggest surprise was what a significant role your personal identity plays in creating relationships of mutual understanding and common ground. this past summer, I spent a lot of time traveling, spoke to a lot of ranchers. The first questions they always ask is where was I raised and which airport I flew in from. Um, People will judge you all the way down to your cowboy boots. Like that's very regional. The shape of your, if you live in Texas, you have the square toe. If you're in Montana, you got the round toe. If your cowboy hat's shaped the wrong way, you're a city slicker. And like it goes on and on and on. So that definitely really surprised me about going into that field. It wasn't something I necessarily felt like I expected or was like always prepared for. But it's something I'm still learning. So yeah.
I'm happy to jump in. I think for me, because I work at the intersection of organizing, policy, technology, and strategy for all of these spheres. And I think what has most surprised me these past 3 years has been how slow progress is policy wise, and how there are a lot more systemic injustices in operationalizing whatever effort you want to do on the state legislative level than I even realized, even though I've been, supporting with advocacy and lobbying, and having been trained by Sierra Club volunteers since I was 18, 19 years old, shortly after the pandemic started. So I think that's been the most surprising thing, and how people who work in the environmental energy sector, it's actually more niche than I've realized in terms of having like place-based efforts. Realize after a few years you really get to know the players in the field, whether you're focused on a state issue or even with a national issue. There are names that are regularly pop up, and you can brain map like the power structures, and that is what power mapping is fundamentally, and that is how organizers and those who are engaged in advocacy work really, determine what the playing field is and how to move certain levers. So I would say those two things.
So for my career field, I am working with NPS mostly, or National Park Service, but also for most federal agencies, what I found is that there's no ladder that exists. Everyone comes into those jobs in different ways. So no one's path to their job now is going to be the same as yours. So I think when I was first starting out, I was really concerned about what job I took now, and how that would impact what I could get in the future. And now I'm realizing it's not linear like that. So what you do now or your first job out of college does not dictate whether or not you're going to be able to be a biologist for a federal agency. It's more so about building your skill set, and eventually you will sort of find your way. But don't let you be the thing stopping yourself from hoping to work a certain job. You might be able to get there through a different path.
I think for me, I conceptually understood there are lots of levers to push to move priorities forward in the advocacy realm, but I don't think I truly appreciated how many different levers there are and how many unique permutations can kind of come out depending on what issue you're working on. And I think that has been heightened by, unfortunately, environmental issues becoming increasingly partisan in both state and federal government. I would also say, kind of tying into what McKenna talked about, I don't know that I came into my job like thinking that I wanted to be a lobbyist or having like a great view about what like lobbying might mean. But in Virginia, we have a part-time legislature. They don't have time. They don't know. They are not experts on the issues that I am an expert on. So I am there to be a resource to them. That's nonpartisan. That's just giving them the facts. And I didn't think I would kind of enjoy or see the value of that type of role as much as I do now.
Thank you so much for all those very insightful answers. So our next question is, are there any skills or capabilities you wish you had further developed during college that would have been helpful when starting your first job?
I can quickly run through a couple. So, like I mentioned, I'm now doing more biology work, but I have a background mostly in geography. So, for my career now, I wish I had taken a botany class. I didn't because I was thinking that I never was going to use those skills. But, if you are kind of still in the exploration phase of what you might want to be doing, it's not a bad idea to know things about plants. So I wish I had done that. And then I also wish that I had paid more attention in my stats classes. So I did take stats, it was a requirement. However, quantitative ecology is very useful for these careers. So yeah, I would recommend if you have the opportunity, take your stats classes and pay attention.
I think my number one recommendation is to take a public speaking course. I am pretty introverted and don't love presenting, and that is a huge part of my job now. And I just think it's a really valuable skill to learn the kind of tricks of the trade about how to clearly and concisely do an oral presentation. So even though it might be painful for you, I really encourage you to take the opportunities to take a kind of formal public speaking class that might be offered at Richmond.
I can jump in. I'll reframe my response, or reframe my response to be a bit different. I felt as though I was very prepared entering my role, and I, like looking back, I would not have changed anything. Honestly, I would have rested a bit more. I was balancing a lot of classwork and working full time for like over half of my college experience. So I did wish that I rested a bit more. So I don't know if that's the answer people want to hear, but I think um, being able to have dived into a lot of different disciplines, I appreciate what Liz mentioned. Like take a botany course. I did Mesoamerican botany, and that was the reason why I ended up doing the herbarium research, and that helped me determine, hey, this like plant morphology might not be the environmental sector that I like super passionate about enough to dedicate my career to, but it led me um, to environmental justice and working on a topic that I've been really enamored by these past 4 or 5 years. I would also say, because I'm a B school student, and like I really encourage others to not just think that your like college department has to be the only experience you have at University of Richmond. Because if it was the only experience I had at University of Richmond, I would not have my job. I would not have critical thinking skills as it relates to sustainability and just the justice oriented aspects of what that entails. And I know they're doing a better job at that now. I recently this was last week, invited back to the school because a new chapter called Knit Impact was founded. And that is something I wish that I had um, when I was in B school, or had a community of that sort. So I would say really look into other departments if you feel as though a department is lacking in certain resources that you're passionate by. Like you're going to a liberal arts school, you can always tap into other places and other professors.
Yeah, I think for me, I wish I advocated for myself more in college, especially with like just showing up to office hours and like asking my professors for help. I was so stubborn. I was like, I don't need to go to office hours. And I'm like, that matters. Like that, I think really, really helps build relationships with your professors that I think looking back, I feel like I missed out on some of those opportunities.
Great. Thank you so much for all of that. And just to follow up on some of the comments people made, one, right, we're in registration time right now. So if you've got a chance to get that Mesoamerican botany, go for it. And the public speaking and stats classes, yeah. And I also think of other resources you can use. I loved how you mentioned net impact and other things that are developing. And I think of the speech center is a great place to go to get the public speaking skills. And so is our office in terms of interviewing skills, learning how to advocate for yourself and talk about your own, telling your own story. So I will put in a plug for those things. We have so many great resources here. And so it's great to be able to have time to take advantage of those. I'm watching the time, and I want to stick to Haley's wonderful schedule that she made, and I'm gonna combine our last two questions, which I think can be combined in a way. Uh, and again, you're going to have time we're going to break this out a little bit and you'll have time to talk more casually. But the last question is around advice you have for students right now interested in pursuing a career path like yours. And my other piece to combine that with, I added this thinking about last week's election results and how this is going to bring change to environmental policy in maybe ways that we don't want, that most likely ways we don't want, the people who are on this panel most likely don't want. So how are you preparing to handle that? What advice do you have for students who are wanting to work in these environments? And sorry, that's a big question, but I know y'all are up for it.
Hard to throw that second piece on us. Yeah. Park Service is not super, optimistic, but it's one of those things where we do what we can, and you can't exactly anticipate what's going to change or what will stay the same. So I think that that kind of goes the same for students. Be adaptable, respond to changes, but I also feel optimistic that all of our careers will continue to exist. And this is kind of dark, but environmental management will only become more important as the climate changes and we start to see more impacts of that. So I have never been worried about not being able to get a job because of climate change. It's just going to look different from maybe how environmental jobs have looked in the past. But in terms of advice for pursuing the career path, again, be adaptable, take advantage of what options or opportunities come to you, because if you are interested in seasonal work or environmental field jobs, ecology, all of those things, it never hurts to have a sort of rounded skill set. That way you are qualified for a lot of different things. You could move to different places and still do that job well. So yeah, round out your skill set, take opportunities that maybe are a little bit different. And then second, kind of related to that, I would strongly recommend getting an internship while you're still in school. That means that once you graduate, people will see that you have experience. And for National Park Service, if you can work in a park before you graduate, that's going to put you at an advantage because a lot of the operations, even at different parks, they'll be different, but there's going to be a lot of shared similarities versus working at a nonprofit, which I have done as well. But working at a nonprofit has different workflows from federal agencies. So if you have the ability to get federal experience, whether that's in a traveling vegetation crew or working on trails, all of those things, that's still valuable experience. So yeah, get those internships, apply for the Richmond Guarantee.
Yeah, I think just going off of that, I think we're all disappointed about the election results, but just try to get out more. Like, go to Carytown, use the bus, go to Pocahontas State Park. I used to go there like every single weekend in college. Do the SSIRs, go on the chaplaincy trips, go on the UROC trips. I did a program called the Wild Rockies Field Institute, and I was able to study abroad. And I'm like so lucky to have been able to have those experiences. But like just get out there, just spend less time on campus. I think Richmond's just a total bubble and it's easy. My freshman year, I actually thought about transferring. I was like so stuck in like the Richmond bubble, and I was like, just the bus system is great. Use it to get out into Carytown. Um, yeah, and take some classes outside of your comfort zone too. I think that really helped me.
I would say the main advice I have is really think about what you want your day-to-day life to like a version of your day-to-day life to possibly look like after college. You know, don't associate a job title to that, but what do you want the quality of your life to possibly look like? What type of area of the United States or abroad might you want to live? How much would the life that you want to live cost? Because, you know, there's a lot of options in the environmental and climate adjacent sectors, but that also comes with various salaries and various quality of life attached to it. And the beauty of that is that we all have different tastes and preferences, but part of, you know, being a great advocate for a community or for a campaign comes from being authentic and being introspective and knowing what you personally like and what possible futures you might want to see yourself in. So I would say think about how to set yourself up for that in terms of, you know, great advice that others have shared in terms of securing an internship, becoming better at communication, take a public speaking class. I would go and add to that to say, like, understand financial literacy in a deeper way than you understand it now. Think about if you're pursuing higher education, how much that is going to cost you in the long run. And think about, you know, partnering and getting experience, volunteering a few hours a week with your local Sierra Club chapter, or working with Keep Virginia Beautiful or Chesapeake Bay Foundation, or a lot of these different organizations that are in the environmental sector that are based in Richmond or in the adjacent area. I would also say something that personally like helps me a lot, even when I was like under 21, was going to the networking drinks events that take place at like in any city really, focused on professionals in the green sphere or in the energy sphere. It's a very casual, you can get a kombucha or something, it's a very casual place for you to just meet people and interact. I would also say go and attend city council meetings that pertain to the environment, or just to like look into the type of policies that your local legislators are enacting, because right now, especially with the outcome of this election, it makes local issues and state-based issues much more pressing and levers of change that will impact our immediate future as community residents.
Yeah, and I want to echo everything McKenna just said. I think that's I'm like drawing a couple of different threads there. I think for me, and maybe this is because I was a geography major, but the most useful way I have found to think about where I wanted to fit in the environmental world is what scale of work is most interesting to me. So it might be you're really interested in grassroots, like very community-based work. It may be you're interested in state level work, regional work, federal work, international work. Like kind of think about all of the different scales that you could work on and which is most interested to you, and then start looking into various companies or organizations that operate on that scale and see what they do. My other piece of advice is take your time. You don't have to have it all sorted right when you exit school. I know when I graduated from Richmond, I was so nervous about getting off kind of the school treadmill and like getting a job. I kind of thought like, oh man, I should just go right into grad school. That's going to be what sets me up best for whatever I think I want to do. And I'm so happy I took 3 years off before going to law school. That gave me time to really figure out to make sure that was the right investment for me and that was the right direction I wanted to go in. So even though it's really scary and it feels like a leap of faith when you're graduating and getting your first job, I just think that is a really valuable experience, and it gives you some time to figure out where to go from there.
Awesome. I really appreciate hearing all the things that y'all are saying. It very much relates to the things when I'm talking to students. I'm saying the same types of things. If this is you're not figuring out the rest of your life, you're figuring out what's next. I love McKenna saying, figuring out your day-to-day life, prioritizing how rest is a part of that and your identity. Anna said that about thinking about your own personal identity. This is great. Those are all our formal questions. And right now, I want to make sure I'm respectful of people's time and energy. And so what I'm looking now to be is, are there any burning questions right now that if there are students on the panel who are going to have to leave shortly that they want to make sure they answer, they can go ahead and do that now. If not, we'll take like a minute or two break and then move into a breakout just to have a smaller group. So any burning questions right now?
I'm just going to say thank you all for the opportunity today. I've learned a lot, made a lot of notes, and I think I have some next steps that I can give students. I'm not going to participate in the breakout sessions because I honestly don't have anything to add to the talent and experience that's there. But I do want to say, really, we appreciate what you're doing, how focused you are, and the many ways that you're accomplishing what you are in these fields and with enthusiasm. It's really heartening for me when I go out there picking litter up that's been thrown out of cars every day to know that the counterbalance is you all to that. So thank you very much. I enjoyed today immensely, and I wish you all well. So I'm going to say bye for now.
Thank you.
I think it would be nice to, if students who are here might want to, answer what compelled them to, spend, an entire hour of a Friday to hear us alum speak about our jobs. And if not, that's totally fine. I get it, but it's nice to see that some people attended.
Go ahead, Abby.
Hi, yes. So I guess on that note, I joined this call because, well, I'm a senior, so I have to figure out something to do. And I'm currently looking into a lot of seasonal work options. So I was particularly interested in you, Liz, and like what your pathway was to getting into the National Park Service. So like if you have any advice on that or what my next step should be post grad, that'd be lovely.
Sure.
I can go.
Oh, I will answer that later. Ariel, go ahead.
Oh, no, it's okay. I didn't know if we were going to go around first, but either way. Okay, I'll go. I'm Ariel. I'm also a senior like Abby, so I'm also trying to figure out what's next. But I guess I feel kind of separate from everyone because I'm actually not environmental studies or biology or anything. I'm global studies and French and an econ minor. So I'm taking a class now on economic development, and I'm hoping that can be a career path I go down. But I would love to incorporate a sustainability component. So I've actually never taken a sustainability class in college. I was very involved in high school, but I just never found an organization that I guess aligned with my schedule or values necessarily. So hopefully maybe next semester I'm in touch with someone at the Office for Sustainability. But yeah, so I appreciate the diversity of careers that everyone has. Yeah.
I am a junior right now, and I just like made a 180 in like my major and everything. So I'm just trying to figure out like what does me like committing myself to environmental studies and geography look like, and kind of like what are the opportunities out there, because like I was really nervous about the decision I made, but I'm really passionate about like sustainability, environmental justice. So I know like the passion is there, is just kind of like organizing my passion and figuring out a path to go down.
I guess I kind of touched on it earlier, but some similar points to Janice. I feel like I know what I'm passionate about, but I feel like I don't necessarily what that looks like in terms of a job title. Especially being like in environmental studies, I love how interdisciplinary it is, but also at the same time, I feel like in terms of career, it's like this could mean anything. Like I don't know where I'm going to be post grad. So just hearing about all your different experiences, especially it's kind of reassuring to hear that's not necessarily like super linear and you don't have to immediately go to grad school or immediately have everything figured out. And it's okay if you start off in kind of one area and pivot to another. But yeah, just getting to hear all your experiences is super awesome and very insightful.
Yeah, Liz, if you want to go ahead and answer the specific, and if anybody else has any information on or advice on seasonal types of things as well.
So I graduated in 2022. And then since then, I worked at a research learning center, which, if you're interested, Dr. Sparrow was the one who connected me. So maybe talk to Dr. Sparrow about that. And then from there, I worked at the Great Smoky Mountains National Park. And I did a Scientists in the Park internship, which is a program, it's a partnership between Conservation Legacy, which is funded by AmeriCorps, and parks. So that's a good program if you're interested in seasonal work. They have science communication, ecology, and some more like biology, geology positions. And those can range from 3 to 4 months to up to a year. So that's a good one. From there, I became a seasonal at Fredericksburg and Spotsylvania National Military Park. So that was with the National Park Service. And that it was like the seasonal and the traditional Park Service sense. And then from there, I worked in a lab at University of Tennessee. And then after that, I started my current job. So I think one thing that even if you're not looking at seasonal work, I think it's helpful to hear that you might be an intern for a while, or you might be changing jobs a lot at the beginning. And I think that once you graduate college, intern is sometimes like a dirty word because it's like, oh, like I wish that I had a full-time job. But if you're doing seasonal work, that's kind of how it's funded. So don't count yourself out of programs just because you're like, oh, I have 2 years of experience. I shouldn't be an intern anymore. Because that's Park Service and federal service and a lot of jobs as well. You might not have a permanent job until you're in your late 20s. And again, that kind of goes back to what McKenna was saying, where you you should know yourself, know the lifestyle that you want to have, because if you want to live in New York City and make 100K, or you probably need to make more than that to live in New York City, but I don't live there, so I don't know that. That the Park Service is probably not a good career path for you. And you might live in some weird places that you never would have expected, but I think that's also the like fun part of it, is that you get to live in a lot of different places, make a lot of connections, and experience a lot of different jobs. So I don't want to take up too much time, but yeah, it can be kind of crazy, but you're not stuck in one sort of, you don't get pigeonholed easily because when you work seasonal jobs, people are looking for someone who has had a lot of different experience and can adapt to whatever projects they're hiring for. So if that's something you're interested in, seasonal work is great. Working AmeriCorps is great. But the reality is that you don't make a lot of money. You move a lot around a lot. So yeah, know yourself and what you want.
Awesome, thank you.
And Liz, I put in the chat, scientistsandparks.org is my usual go-to to refer people to because I think it's the most easiest to understand. And then I just found the National Park Service Work With Us piece that seems to be updated. If you have any others, let me know or let us know and put them in the chat. But I think that's a good first step for those things. Yeah.
I wanted to chime in because Ariel, you mentioned, I hope I'm pronouncing your name right. You mentioned your minor in econ, and I think that, and this goes back to the question of the recent news about our new president. I think no matter what happens politically on the national stage or statewide, building economies of scale to meet the demand necessary for workforce, for carbon emission reductions, and for like scalable technologies like electrification in buildings or EVs, as Carol mentioned earlier, is critical. And we need like bright people who are focused on economic development for any, topic like under the sun related to sustainability. I'm, of course, more familiar with clean energy and the intersections of let me repeat, I don't like saying clean energy, renewable energy infrastructure, and the intersections of the built environment and such. But they, like, for example, I was a fellow for the or I was selected as a top scholar, rather, international scholar for the International Association for Energy Economics. And this was when I think it was late sophomore year. And essentially, there are organizations, international and national organizations, completely just focus on the field of economics for whatever priorities you can think of related to the environment or energy. And like they have student memberships, and when you pay $20 or $30, and sometimes you can reach out and they'll just waive the fee for you, you get tapped into so many like mentors in a sphere where a lot of young people like aren't in. Like I applied for this student competition, and apparently there were like hundreds of people who applied for like their research. And I actually did my research, this was like 4 years ago, on electrifying a rural school like community in Charles City County. And I'm still doing that work like to this day. And a lot of the students are actually like PhD students. So by you accessing those communities for like related to like economic development or economics like at large, you have a wealth of information around you. And people, like, there are a lot of professionals that are more than happy to like support you on that journey if you show a direct interest and like follow up with them. Because I know that a lot of people now feel quite burned because they're not hearing back, of course, from internships or jobs, because the job sector is like really messy right now. And even with like professors, like it's hard for a lot of them to respond in a timely way because so many other people are like emailing them. And on top of that, they have like school and research and classes to teach and so many other things. And I've actually been thinking about that more because I've had that experience in terms of people like not responding back to my messages like 5 years ago, like 4 years ago. But now, because I'm in a position where I have a lot of people like reaching out to me, like I have more of that perspective from what my professors or like people that I, looked up to like had. Like, I think it's important for you to like advocate for yourself and then really find those like tailored organizations that have resources like webinars and seminars, and podcasts are a great resource too, just to hear like just interesting perspectives on the intersections of sustainability, economics, and the future.
Thank you so much. I really appreciate that. That was very helpful.
Yeah, just to add in, I would say cast a wide net and keep an open mind. Like, I never thought my dream job was doing seasonal field work. I thought I was going to be doing seasonal field work for years and years. And I got so burnt out actually from it and like so exhausted from it. Um, I never thought I'd be working in carbon markets. I actually think in the law and policy course that I took in college, I criticized them. So keep an open mind, cast a wide net, explore a lot of different opportunities. I think that's something that's so beautiful about the ES major is like you do have so many different options and you can pivot if you need to. Um, so just keep that in mind. I wouldn't get bogged down into like, oh, I have to do this or like this is the job that I'm going for. Because I feel like when I graduated, I was really strong-headed about doing seasonal work, and that ended up not being in my own best interests. So keep an open mind.
Yeah, I appreciate that. I guess kind of a follow-up question is, when we're either interviewing or when at the Thanksgiving table, someone's asking, like a family member's asking, so what do you want to do when you graduate? I'm sure Abby's going through this right now as a senior. Um, because I want to have that open mind and that's something I've recognized. I know I want to have economic sustainability. I have all of these intersections that I know I want. How do you recommend like presenting yourself? I guess probably more applicable in like a professional sense when like say I'm doing an application for a fellowship that's asking what do you want to do after this fellowship. How do you recommend going about that if it seems like I'd say most of the panelists have had like careers that have shifted quite a bit, so how do you kind of not ignore that but embrace it?
I always say I like to wear a lot of hats. I think that's a good phrase. That when I was doing seasonal field work is actually a split position with the Nature Conservancy and a small nonprofit. So I was like kind of working for both organizations then. And then in my current job, I also wear a lot of hats. So I think that's like a good one-liner just to kind of like throw it out there and kind of get it done. Yeah. I don't know if anyone has any better advice you want from.
I didn't do this when I was in Richmond, but at Richmond, but I would recommend going to career services and getting some help with your pitch. I used my career services at law school a lot, and that was one of the most valuable things I got out of law school. So if anyone's considering law school, look for programs with good career services associated with them. But as part of that process, like I sat down and had to spend some time thinking about like my story and what my pitch was going to be to whatever job I was applying to, and then how I could tweak or modify that story to basically answer any question that they were going to throw at me. So I think it's important to like take some time. It's okay to say like I don't know where I want to be in 5 or 10 years, but I do know that I'm very interested in um promoting climate justice. And I know there's a lot of ways that that could play out. And I'm excited to see what I learn in this fellowship to help me like figure out what that path would be. But I think it is important to have some kind of like semblance of that core interest that is relevant to whatever job you're applying to or whatever is most interesting to you right now. So spending time kind of crafting your story and thinking about ways that you can kind of modify it based on whatever situation you're going to be interviewing for is really a valuable use of time.
I really like that advice. And to just add a bit to what was just mentioned earlier by Anna and Carol, I would say really ask yourself why you're interested in sustainability and economics and like keep asking yourself like, okay, like for me, for example, building decarbonization, like that's a really random niche like sphere that I found out that I loved like from a very like at a very early point in college. Like I asked myself, why am I interested in building electrification, building decarbonization? Oh, because I'm very interested in buildings and people. Okay, why am I interested in buildings and people? Oh, because we spend 91% of our lives as Americans in buildings. And I think that our places of rest and work and blah, blah, blah should be reflective of the highest ideals of like justice. Okay, why? I think that especially because there aren't federal mandates for indoor air quality, we need to increase energy efficiency technologies to make the built environment healthier. Okay, why? So you just keep asking yourself why and like write those suggestions down. And I would also like what I do, and this is consistently like every few weeks, I always ask myself, and then every quarter or like twice a year, I revisit this long list that I like make of what does a livable future look like for me. And I think asking yourself that and envisioning what your ideal future like looks like surrounded by your peers and your community, like that could be free clean water for everyone. And like what for clean water is a human right, clean air is a human right. It could be accessible transportation, especially in the form of rapid transit. I don't know, in the city that you're in. They could be anything, but really get to the meat of that why and what.
Thank
Yeah,
you.
I think
Yeah.
that's, oh, I'm sorry.
Oh no, I just wanted to say thank you. This has been very helpful. Yeah. I just need to lock myself in a room and start brainstorming.
Yeah, I think that all of that is really great advice for kind of building your why. And I think that also, in my experience, like people kind of back off once you say, like, I'm interested in a career that combines economics and environmental justice. And then you can say, so I'm looking, like in short term, I'm looking for positions that will help me build my skill in X. And I think that that has also kind of been how I've directed my career path so far, is that I've looked critically at my skill set and identified what jobs I might like in the future. Because with environmental jobs, it's not like I want to be a doctor, therefore I need to go to med school and I need to do this. I can check all these boxes off. There's clear paths. It doesn't really work like that. So considering what type of jobs you might want to do in the future, looking at like things you are totally unqualified for now, identifying where you can build your skills, like where you're lacking, and then saying, okay, then I'm looking for a job where I can get more lab experience working with plants, or I can get some more quantitative ecology experience. And then that gives you kind of a path ultimately to get to a career that you are more interested in that might combine your interests. But you have in the short term, you have things that you know you want to work on. And even if you don't want to be a lab technician forever, that's something that you know in the short term will help you along the way. So I feel like that's a good way to quiet those conversations that can feel really intimidating, and give you sort of steps to plan for your future without knowing exactly where you're going.
I love all this. This is great. I'm gonna put in somebody else put in a podcast rec, which is great. The way out is in. And I'm sorry, it's only the link, it's a box link. So if you don't have the box access, sorry. And I'm happy to send it to any of our alums who want this. But we have an intro message tip sheet that Liz just wonderfully demonstrated some of the pieces on that. So thank you. And absolutely, we're able to help you with that. And I feel strongly about like the Thanksgiving conversation tables. It's kind of like, I'm good. Here's my thing, and then maybe they have something that they can recommend you to, or somebody they can recommend you to, or they can like. I also want everybody to be comfortable with. I'm figuring it out, and I will know that like. Don't let the pressure of those questions make you feel like okay, you're not doing the right things. So, and I'm more than happy to talk individually with anybody about that too. Cool. All right, we're at 1:12, and I know that we put this at 1:30 as the ending time, but I do want to, we've been here for a while, so I want to make sure that if people have to hop on off, they can. Are there other questions or anything that you are not able to either from our students who are still here that you didn't really get to an idea that you want to cover? We'll start with that.
I would just really say, sorry. I was just going to say, I think it's important to, and this is something that was, like one of the other panelists alluded to earlier, Liz specifically. I feel as though, especially as young people, we both have advantages and disadvantages because of our age and how society perceives voices from Gen Z and just younger populations in general. I would really say believe in yourself and really put your leadership hat on whenever you're reviewing your resume, whenever you're in an interview. Use action words. Really think about how you are positioning yourself as a leader, not just a future leader, but a current leader. The fact that you took time out of your day, like at lunchtime on a Friday when you could be outside or doing something else, shows that you care. And once you combine that care with purpose, passion, and also advocacy, like that is what a leader looks like. And you really should emphasize that for yourself. And even in moments where you feel uncertain or unqualified for something, like think about why you think that, because a lot of times it's delusional thinking. And that is something I really prioritized, you know, a few years ago when I was applying to a full-time job as someone who was beginning my junior year. There were a lot of reasons why I should not have gotten that job in my head, but there were more reasons why I did get that job and why my colleagues saw leadership in me, and that hiring committee hired someone who they knew was a full-time college student. So that's what I would say.
Okay, I have a question. I feel like this has been touched on a little bit, but I was wondering if you guys had any advice in terms of how you like balance and prioritize your like mental health and self-care and trying to like combat burnout, both in terms of your experiences in like college and in your careers now. Because kind of like what you were saying earlier, McKenna, like I'm working two jobs, I'm involved in clubs, I have classes, I still want to have a social life sometimes, like, and it feels hard to like prioritize myself sometimes, and I don't want to get too burnt out. So I was wondering if you guys had any advice on how you prioritize and balance those things.
I can start. So for me, this past year, I've traveled all the time for my job, and the travel was actually really difficult because it was constantly at the last minute. Like planning with ranchers for trips is like a nightmare. Um, Finding like what worked really well for me is like just enjoying things in the moment, like with the travel, like on a plane, that's when I can read a book, right? Or when I'm in a hotel, like, okay, I can read, I can go outside and do yoga, I can use the hotel gym, like finding just like those little small pieces of like being able to just like exercise and get through it and like prioritize that, block that into your calendar and into your day so that you aren't missing out. Because I've burned myself out before too, like I burned myself out in school, I burned myself out at work. It happens. Don't beat yourself up over it, I would say. Um, but just try to build in like a good routine. I think that's like what's helped me the most, just having like a solid, like every day you wake up at this time, this is what you do. That's what's helped me.
I would say to add on to that, or to emphasize what Anna was saying specifically with exercise and how that has helped the balance in my life. Like personally, I'm so much more stress free now than I was 3 years ago in college because I had a full time job and I was a full time college student. But just walking regularly, like every single day, and keep in mind, like I hated walking on campus. Like I was known for having an e-bike because I never walked on campus like at all. And now I, get in a lot of steps every day. But and initially that was for bodybuilding, but now that I'm not doing that, it's just for like my mental health. I would also say look at how many hours you're spending on your phone. And I'm someone who spends too much time on my phone, even though I don't mind it actually. But look at how many hours you're spending on your phone and seeing what is fulfilling about that time you're spending on your phone and what parts are actually way less fulfilling than you think. Like if you have 2 hours on TikTok and you're like, oh, how much of a, cost benefit difference is 1 hour versus 2 hours? Like you can allot, that average of like 1 hour to doing something fun. Like I used to plan so many fun free activities for myself, even as like a super busy person in school, like going to the VMFA and having like a picnic on the grass and then going inside for like Wednesday jazz evenings. And I only spent like 50 minutes there because I had no time like to do a lot of fun things. But that 1 hour of concentrated like rest in the form of being around like live music and other people where I can easily remove myself from was something I really looked forward to. So like give yourself fun and free things to like look forward to as a student. And I think the reason I was able to do that really effectively and consistently for years is because I'm really prioritized my calendar and really thought intentionally about scheduling things. Like if something's not on my schedule, it's harder for me to remember that that's taking place. So emphasize rest in your schedule. Like I have like from 6:30 to 8 in the morning, I have dedicated like focus time. That could be yoga, Pilates, walking, like stretching, like any of that. It could be reading, but even give yourself just a 1 hour like time block, just as you would for a class period, because there are 24 hours in a day. And, like work takes up some, school takes up a lot, internet takes up a lot, but allocating that time more effectively and focused on fulfillment, like that really was what changed the game for me and allowed me to, not burn out. Because I am surprised I didn't burn out, but it was simply because I gave myself things to look forward to.
I'll offer a little bit of a different perspective because I am not great at calendaring. And have found that actually, when I try to schedule my day by the minute, hour at all, that's generally how I burn myself out. So I think in college, I was trying to keep up with a lot of people, and FOMO is like something that will always chase after you in college. And I think that leaving school, that was something that I found dissipated. So, if that's something you struggle with, might not be the case once you graduate. But listening to myself and really knowing myself has been a lot easier now that I don't have so many different clubs and sports and classes and all of that. So, joy of missing out. Exactly. So, yeah, listening to yourself and like being in tune with what you need can be really helpful because, um, yeah, the body will demand rest if it does not get it. So, if scheduling your rest works really well for you, then do that. But if that doesn't work well for you, then if you are like, I'm feeling really tired, I'm going to cancel all of my plans. And I regularly do that because I need that. And then also, I know this is like a joke term, but touching grass is like actually so important, whether that's like you get off work and you sit in like your yard or on a porch or by the lake, like even like 5, 10 minutes, that is so huge. And of course, like getting out there and going for a hike is great, but you might not always have time for that. So if you're feeling really busy, that's something that I always have just found that like sitting outside is actually so like energizing. So if you can do that, I feel like most people in the environmental studies sphere love to connect with nature. But yeah, prioritizing that even for a little bit of your day will probably make you feel a lot better if you were like stressed out.
I agree with everything that's been said. I have a very intense and time-consuming hobby that I have kept up through college, since college, and that is a really important part for me of keeping balance and keeping my priorities straight. So really encourage you to cultivate your hobbies outside of, especially as you enter the working world. It's really easy to just do work and not work, and having something else, whether I don't know, having some kind of goal outside of a professional goal is just really fulfilling and a good way to keep balance. But I also wanted to speak towards kind of larger burnout. Like climate change is real and horrible, and nothing is happening fast enough to kind of make the changes that we need. And it's terrifying to think about. And it's okay, though, to not think about it all of the time and focus on the ways that the work that you're doing is moving the ball forward. You don't have to be kind of fully addressing the full impact of kind of this global emergency that's unfolding at all times. It's okay to kind of compartmentalize and focus and keep a narrow view, to keep from kind of being burned out by just the enormity of the challenge that is ahead of us. So just encourage you to take that time if you need to, and it doesn't mean you're not um, seeing the problem for what it is. It means you're keeping a healthy perspective that's going to allow you to do good work to help solve the problem.
Thank you for all those answers. It's definitely like assuring to like hear about your guys' experiences with that too, because I feel like I don't know, work culture is a little more just like gotta be productive all the time. And so it's nice to hear that you guys find ways to prioritize yourselves and taking care of yourselves too.
Great. So we'll wrap up some things unless anybody else has any other pieces. This has been great. I know it's been a long event, but I really think y'all have, our panelists have offered such great information and advice. So I really, really appreciate all your time. And Haley and Izzy, thank you for letting me have a voice in this as well. Haley, did you want to mention some sustainability stuff?
Sure, yeah. Thank you all so much for joining and to our panelists for speaking today. Like, I know when I was a senior in college, which feels like a long time ago, but it wasn't super long ago. I didn't know what the heck I wanted to do, but you figure it out, and it's really reassuring to hear those voices. For the Office for Sustainability, we have a big event coming up next week for our students. If you haven't already heard of Eco Challenge, it's a really great way to get involved with daily sustainability actions, figuring out what sort of initiatives are happening on campus. And it's also just fun to join as a team and compete. And so if you're looking to join that, you can go to ur.ecochallenge.org. A lot of you seem to be juniors and seniors, so you probably have already heard of it, but yeah, it's such a great way to lead into the Thanksgiving break and reconnect some the other environmental groups on campus. Other than that, I think that's our big thing coming up. So I'll kick it back to you, Brandy, because I know you have some more sustainability career related things going on in the future.
Yes, and the other thing I wanted to mention, I liked how you talked about scheduling things. I literally put a nap on my schedule for Monday, so you got to do that sometimes. So the sustainability things, I want one quick thing, and I made a list of the things in the resource in the chat, and I'm gonna send those to, I think, Haley. I'll send it to you to send out. But we have a program called ANS Next. I don't know if anybody got to participate in it before. This year we have several climate related and environmental justice related topics. One of them is called Hotter Planet, Hotter Richmond, Climate Strategies for the World and Our City. And Steph Spera is one of the professors leading that. Then we have another one on the science and politics of water pollution. So I really hope that if you're a student who wants to be involved in this, you can sign up, start on Monday. I'll include that in the thing. So, and then in the springtime, it's for March, which I don't even know what March is. But we're going to have another science career program related to this. And one of the categories in there is environmental career paths. So we will have that. So great. That's all I got. I really hope you have a wonderful afternoon and pencil in a nap if you need to as well. And thank you everybody for all your time and enjoy the rest of your day.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye, everyone.